Have you ever wondered what public policy really means and how it shapes the world around you? Welcome to Primus Cut,
a series where we cut through the clutter
to unpack policies transforming the way we live,
work and govern.
Each episode, we bring you insights from our in-house experts and thought leaders to understand
what's changing, why it matters,
and what it means for you.
Let's begin. Welcome to Primus Cut. Today, we have with us Sunita Mohanty, Senior Advisor to Primus Partners.
Sunita brings over 25 years of experience at the intersection of technology, public policy, and governance. Prior to joining Primus Partners, she held senior leadership roles at Google and Invest India. At Primus, she works in tandem with the public policy vertical. Welcome, Sunita, to the podcast. Thank you.
Thank you, Sakshi. Thank you, Mayuri. Glad to be at the Primus Cut. I think we'll have a blast today.
Yeah.
I think we've been just anticipating this episode for a very long time. Storyboarding would be the right word for consulting space. But we actually, because we were anticipating this episode for a very long time. We figured that you had a very diverse journey.
Yeah,
right?
I think you must have seen us stalking your LinkedIn yesterday.
I didn't see.
I think not just yesterday. I think for the past 1 month.
Wow. So now I see. Now I know who from Primus is looking at views.
I realized that you worked in Infosys, right, before this, and then you went on to Google, where you worked, I think, for a decade in the digital safety platform. Then you moved on to Invest India. You built the India investment story. Then you came to Primus, right? First thing we want to understand is, was there a particular experience or a moment that made you feel like, okay, I want to work in that intersection of public policy, investment, and technology?
It's interesting. I look back at 25 years, and a lot of what I remember more than the experience of the people I've worked with. So I remember in ICICI, I used to, my skip reporting was to Mayuri, which was a SEBI chairman. In Infosys, my manager and then my skip manager was Ravi Kumares, who's now the Cognizant CEO. And then at Google, I worked with a lot of senior leaders, including having the privilege of seeing and talking to Sundar multiple times, and then Invest India and Primus. So it's been the people that have really made the difference. Technology was in my heart. I always knew that I wanted to do technology. Even at ICICI Bank, I started with technology there, setting up the data warehouse. I think the intersection of technology and policy happened around my last few years of the 14 years that I spent at Google. When I was doing trust and safety, we were looking at a lot of issues which were mostly regulatory in nature, and I had started in trust and safety at a point of time where regulations were there, but it was not as active as it started becoming later in 2020s. And then when rules started coming in and acts started coming in Europe first, Europe usually GDPR came in, US started following suit, and APAC was getting there. At that point, I said that we have only a single product that we are working around. Not single product, Google has many products, but you're working behind a product. But what happens is you are trying to solve for an American, you're trying to solve for European, you're trying to solve for APAC, and in APAC, multiple countries. At that point, one of the things that I was always inquisitive about is, why are governments not thinking it differently like we are thinking it? So it was always quite intriguing that, do I go out there, understand what is the government thinking? Because you do have your blinders on when you are in an organization, and then you want to get out and see what is motivating them to bring a regulation. Why is the policy thought in a certain way? A very simple thing, for example, who's a child is defined very differently. In US, it is 13. In UK, it is 16. In India, it is 18. And for a company or an organization, it's very difficult to build products that is then working seamlessly across markets. So that's when I said, let me go understand, work with the governments, see how it works. And what I started with Invest India, while it was investment promotion, we also looked at policy, we looked at what is causing concerns. And then I saw very different mechanism of how government was working. Obviously, I had exposure while doing a lot of competition cases at Google, which behind the scene we were reviewing, a lot of litigations that have come. Anytime a new regulation came, how do we create the policy product to comply? So I had exposure, but this was like really sitting live, talking to bureaucrats, talking to ministers, figuring out what they're thinking, and that part was quite intriguing and exciting. It's very ambiguous. It is quite agile, and it challenges your thinking every day. And I felt, yeah, that's a space that's going to excite me.
That's so interesting, and I think you've also given us the perfect segue for our next
I
question.
think every point is going to be touched upon. through the episode.
But yeah, like you mentioned, that you've also worked with Invest India. You were the Chief Economic Relations Officer, and I think working at Invest India, I'm sure there were multiple times where you were sitting with foreign investors or heads of states, and since you were working for India's investment promotion, was there, when you were having a conversation with them, what would you say was one of the most exciting things that they felt about India? Like they wanted to invest in this particular thing. And what was that one thing that they were extremely cautious about?
So, see, I'll tell you, I had an 18-month journey with investing. Very exciting, quite interesting. I used to manage the country parts. So I would work with the Indian missions abroad and I would work with the embassies. So a lot of it is that my teams would be the first touch point for an investor, a foreign investor coming into India. So it is amazing in getting their perspective. Now, no investor comes to India because they want to come to India just like that. At the end of it, they're running a business. And profitability of the business, because they have shareholder commitments, so they will only come when a country makes sense. I remember early on, and Nivriti, who was the MD, had hired a set of senior folks, so we would ideate, we would talk and brainstorm that how do you do business development for India, and that's the hardest. You can do business development for a product, but doing that for a country really takes thinking. And when we started with the regular page that you should come to India, fastest growing market, etc., a lot of investors told us, we know that. What next? So we realized that we have to be even more creative because people know about India. People know that it is a growing market. And then we realized that there are micro elements of India that an investor is looking for. And what are those micro elements? For example, if you are wanting to do business, your market share is important. India is a 1.4 billion growing economy, growing salaries. So obviously consumption is increasing. So if you are going to a company, say Daikin, India, the demand for ACs is increasing. If you are going to Sony, TV demand is increasing. So I think they're coming because there is a market demand in India. Then we have done some analysis on India A, B, C. And when you look at India A and B, which is the 150 million top consumers of India, you realize that equivalent to a country like France or that of any other European country. So I think people see India in as a single entity, and what we would keep telling that you cannot look at India as a single entity. You have to look at India as that many states, that many diverse people, different markets, different spending propensity, and then you would realize what the size is. So when we did that cut, then new investors started getting very excited about India. So that was one. The second one was obviously everyone is only ready to come to India if they know that the government is actually thinking of policies in that space. So a lot of the working with line ministries, understanding what are the policies, a lot of PLI schemes came, incentives came, making sure that we were able to unpack these for our investors was the second thing. And then the third thing also was export, because APAC itself is becoming, Europe was falling at that point of time. US, they had kind of saturated. So they said, if you can manufacture in India, if you can produce in India, not only service India, but get incentives to export and service all of APAC, then that's a market. So I think a lot of the micro analysis, etc., where do they go, which state, what is the logistics, what's the infrastructure. Every time they came, there's infrastructure development here, there's a new bridge, there's a new port development happening, new logistics getting set up, new industry coming up. So I think that is the vibrancy they saw, and that's the vibrancy we were able to project to them for them to consider India.
This is so interesting. It sounds like you guys, advertisements, the way advertisements are made, I think, do you have like a tagline that you used to use in Invest India? Like an advertisement for India?
We wouldn't, because I think the whole model would change. There are some who were already in India. There were, but I think it is just that India is not what you see. I mean, you really have to come and spend time and understand India and what is available here.
I think every kilometer India changes,
Changes.
right? Like,
The dialect changes, the food changes, the system changes, the soil changes. So it's quite interesting how it is.
yeah, because I remember I come from a state which also has not been touched upon when it comes to investment for a very long time, and every time I go back, I see something new. Some company has come in and invested, and it's so good to see, the eastern part of India being developed in that way. But I think we'll touch upon this, this entire investment story in the coming.
An area where I think even Prime Minister used to keep telling, and I had heard so many times Piyush Goyal saying that that's the area that we want to develop and grow, which is amazing. It was also close to Japan, close to the eastern part of the India. So there is so much talent there, hardworking people, ease of doing business, a great terrain, beautiful place to stay. People want to stay in those areas, so why not? So airports, investors have said, I remember a Japanese investor saying, is there a way we can, with a single no hop flight, get into Assam or get into Sikkim? So that's going to come up, yes.
Yeah, we've seen that very recently. Like, we've seen the entire terminal expanding, which is like kind of very new for a place like Northeast. I mean, yeah.
I hope it's all sustainable development, because the beauty of that place is too good to lose, yeah.
But we'll touch upon, I think, this entire thing once again. Third, I think the very important thing that also came to us was, you being a woman in the tech field, right? And you've been very vocal about it through your work. We want to understand how important it is for a woman to sit in the high table where you're discussing, technology policies and regulations, specifically in today's time, and there's a lot of like crimes against women in online platforms, and there are also policies where government is looking towards it. So how does this entire thing plays out for you?
See, there are two parts to this. I'll first speak about me, and then I'll speak about the work. See, my mom was a first lady engineer from Orissa. So she worked in L&T in the field. And when she went in, there was not a single woman doing engineering. So she had to stay in the medical hostel and then cycle to the engineering college to work. So, to study. When she joined L&T, there was no women there for at least next 20 years, minus the receptionist and the janitor. There were no women. So she's survived that. And hence, when we grew up as kids, we never grew up knowing that there was a gender. So many a times, so even when I went to organizations, I had to course correct myself and say, you know what, I have to really understand that other person's point of view, because they don't see gender as neutrally as I see. So that was my correction that I had to do through the process. So even at Google, there were very strong women leaders. Diversity was outstanding in the leadership team. So many a times sitting across the table, we would have women talking about policies that are more pro women, be it internal policies or policies that are reflective of how a product behaves. So I was very fortunate to see that. On the other hand, when users use a product, that demographics is not what we experience in boardrooms or in offices, because that's a very vulnerable population, whether it is women or it is children. How they access technology, etc., is very different. So many a times, for example, when GPay launch happened in India and I was part of that launch process doing trust and safety, I was also thinking about so many vulnerable populations, more women, old people who were using UPI for the first time, and there was a lot of fraud. That how do you really fix these? Because you cannot create a lot of friction in the product. The moment you create friction in the product, people don't use it. So you have to find mechanisms within the product that prompts when something goes wrong at that moment that matters when something is going wrong. So we would always find out, this was a term we would use at Google, moments that matter. A moment that matters to a user, a moment that matters to at a certain point of time, and how do you save them at that point of time and keep. So many are things about how in product design, which we call safety by design, happens, that you think about a user's journey and what point you can create the least amount of friction but make them aware of something going wrong. Similarly, the two other things that we say, especially with women and children, we design was how are you going to be able to raise a complaint? So there is a problem will occur because of the diversity of users. A US woman using map is very different from someone in any other country using, or someone using payments there versus another country. So we said, if something goes wrong, how easy it is for them to find the button that is able to then raise a concern. So your appeals button, your complaint button, all of that should be very easily discoverable with one or two clicks. So we worked on that. Then the third element is, when that gets done, how quickly are you responding? How are you making sure you learn from that experience and then integrate it into the product? So many things happen, but one of the micro moments that stays with me, we were designing the revenge porn um, uh, workflow in the US. We were getting a lot of appeals for revenge porn, and the company really wanted to fix this because it was out on the net for women who were vulnerable. So at that point of time, we did a stakeholder consultation, and we brought a lot of women who were working in the adult industry and heard their perspective. And then when I was leading child safety for Google, we realized through statistics, because we were working with industry consortiums, we were working with Thorn at that point of time, NECMEC, which is again a organization that works very closely on child safety issues. We found a lot of the pornographic material considering children are self-generated, which means 40%, which means a lot of these are little kids creating material for their girlfriends, boyfriends, and then they go viral, then they go into the dark web. And so we realize that a large part of this is education. Whether it is in fraud that happens in GPay or a PhonePe or a Paytm, or it happens in maps, or it happens with search with respect to porn or child safety, a lot of it is about education. Now, education is also quite diverse, because how do you teach a child using a phone in a village in India versus someone who's sitting in a Delhi school, because their acknowledgement of what are the harms are going to be very different. Their usage of the phone was very different. So large part of my time at Trust and Safety, we also spent in user education, and how do we create curriculums, how do we make sure kids understand what to say, what to not, and parents, bring in parents also as a part of this conversation. So many times we spend, and I have a lot of gratitude for my 14 years at Google, because I think it is a company that says don't do no evil, but at the same time has sponsored so many of these projects that say go and do education, do the right thing, teach, build curriculums, teach parents, teach children. So I think that's.
Yeah, but that is, I mean, this is so interesting. I don't think we have ever realized or heard such a perspective.
I think this conversation kind of made me realize that technology is like tech policy specifically. It's specific that sector when you work in, you actually grow along the youth.
Yeah.
Like you come from any age and background, but you have to be, because the youth is so involved in that. Yeah. So speaking from
But also when you do something like trust and safety with the tech, you tend to see so much of negative that you tend to.
You want to do something positive.
No, you also start believing that technology only does bad things. And then you have to course correct and say there is so much good that technology is doing. Like in everyday life, the way it touches, the way, whether it is health or it is navigation or it is productivity or it is skill, anything, then you say, this is a very small part of it. And that is what you need to course correct. That's it.
But I think, taking a cue from, what Mayuri said, that when you deal with tech policy, you sort of grow with the sector because youth is a big part of tech policy. And I think recently there has been a lot of conversation around, social media ban for children under 16. And a lot of governments are taking, action towards it. We are also having a lot of consultations for it. Specific to India, wherein, like you said, you have such a nuanced and diverse population that you cater to. You have a person sitting in Delhi vis-a-vis a person sitting in, a small rural village. And when you talk about bans, outright bans, you have, obviously there is an intended consequence to it and an unintended. But from a tech policy regulation perspective, how do you see these regulations evolve in India specifically, given that, it's such a diversified environment?
So I wanted to also clarify one on the social network ban that Australia did, because I think that raised everyone's head on what could be the policy. I think they have banned children from having a account when you are till you are of a certain age, which is 16. They are not banning the usage as a non-account user. So which means that they acknowledge all the good things that technology does for children, whether it is education, access to information, etc. But they are saying you should not have an account till you're 16, and that's social. Why is that? Let's try and understand if you unpack it. When you have an account, the algorithm works on your account in terms of tracking your behavior. And then you will see that now when you go and look at your YouTube or Instagram, you will see that a lot of your interests, personalized, etc. happen, which is a account level details or data. If children are using social network in an unsigned account, those kind of patterns do not come. Personalization doesn't come, which means that you protect children from a lot of things. So if I was a child, let's say, and I was inquisitive about drugs, or I was inquisitive about sex, or I was inquisitive about something else, right? Suicide. If I was in a signed account, or weight loss, or this thing, which are all, how do I get fair? How do my skin becomes like a Korean glass skin? All of those issues that kids face. In an account, the algorithm will keep showing you interest areas, which are how the algorithm is built. Whereas if you're in an unsigned account, you can access information, but this kind of misinformation in this thing, that pattern does not come. So it's a well thought out mechanism. What happens a lot of time, people don't understand that. Oh, social network ban at 16, right? And so both sides react, media reacts, governments react, companies react. So it's very important to understand and unpack that. And I follow 𝐒𝐩𝐢𝐬𝐬𝐿 who's the security officer at in Australia, who was architect behind a lot of this. Amazing lady, and she talks about this if you hear her. Now in India, I think my 2 cents, I'm not preaching to the choir. I think the government is doing a fantastic job in terms of understanding what should happen, what is right for the children, etc. It is a PMO priority, it's a METI priority. Everybody is thinking about it. I think states cannot take individual. No, they cannot take. They cannot put rules at a state level, because no, they can't, because one, in a large country like India, if every state has a different regulation, it is not going to come. Secondly, also think from a product company. Product companies, to create a regulation that works for Orissa does not work for Assam, works for Assam is different from Karnataka, is going to be a nightmare, right? It's not, it doesn't make sense. So I think at this point of time, the central government needs to really have a say, has to think through it, has to do a lot of research on the impact on children. How do you protect? How do you use this as a force of good versus creating the enough breaks that also enables what is the right age? I think 18, like at 18, kids are old, right? So should the age be 16? Should the age be 15? So really making that decision, I think a lot of our rules may be archaic, so we'll have to really check what is the definition of a child right now, and then redesign.
Yeah, but I just had a follow-up question to what you said. Like, I understand that having having a signed-in account does push personalized advertisements and all of that. But I also, so I think from where I'm coming from is Instagram or YouTube. They have guardrails, like you said, in the product itself. It's not like if I tell Instagram don't track, it won't. I mean, it will stop tracking, ideally speaking. Correct. So it's not like the product doesn't have guardrails.
But people don't know that, right? A lot of, for example, a lot of education, I think in Google and this thing was, how do I go to my settings?
Yeah.
And look at what our company offers. All of these products are designed with enough guardrail, but people don't understand it. Layman, I cannot say that because I've worked 14 years in Google, I understand. You all understand it because you're working. Half the people don't understand. I don't think my parents understand it.
Yeah.
My dad uses Instagram, like Facebook. When he used to use Facebook, I would tell him several times, don't leave your phone number in a public domain. Like he would leave his comment and all, because there is so much of social engineering in fraud that can happen. Anyone can hack your account, social network account, and follow the patterns in your social network and send you a message, take money, do anything. So it is that social engineering piece is so beautifully done that sometimes when we sit, and I have so many stories in my 14 years, I said, अच्छा ऐसे भी कर रहे हैं, मतलब they are thinking 4 steps ahead of you. So they are so smart at making money that they are designing this that a layman will not understand. So it is that education, everyone has guardrails, nobody understands.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Fair.
just wanted to ask, have you ever got scammed in?
Yeah.
No, but I've never, because I think I was touchwood, yeah. Because I was quite lucky to understand this, and I think my children also, we've kind of all of us know this. But at the same time, I think I have fallen for very creative stories. I say, like my dad, but my dad was also smart. Like a very close friend of his who lives in the US, who's moved to the US after retirement with the children, had written to him saying, you know what, my wife is sick and I need money. I had traveled, but it was such a almost real story. He was showing it to me, and but there was a sudden presence of mind that he called my sister in the US and said, can you check if uncle is doing fine? And we found out that it was social engineering. But I've seen some of the stories, never fallen for it, but it is quite creative.
They are very creative.
Very creative. They would have completely analyzed your social network patterns, etc., understood who you meet, who you talk to, how many times you talk to, where you have studied, what is your phone number, what is the location of your space. So many times that location the setting also you will have to turn off. Yeah. So you are in the US and somebody calls you because they already know that you are in the US. So it is so amazing that your location, people can even track your location and see where you are.
I mean, that's what we do, right? When we look at somebody in the, specifically LinkedIn, you can see the location there. And that's how we know, okay, so should I set up a meeting at this location at this date? So that kind of helps, yeah. But yeah, this thing is...
No, but location tracking also in Facebook, right? Because it'll tell you, or in a social network site, when you put pictures in Lisbon or you are in this thing, it's so easy for them to engineer this thing around your space.
Snapchat has this location tracking thing, right?
Snapchat has,
All of them have, yeah.
Also, they have the map.
Yeah. So you have to set it off if you don't want it to.
Yeah, so I think from technology regulation right now, I think we want to move into the investment story of it. I mean, India has been actively seeking FIIs, investments through FIIs and FDIs. You have also been, associated in this sector. We've figured out that GCCs are, one platform, or where investments are very strong. Primus has also written thought leadership on this. We've spoken very strongly about, investments coming into tier 2 and tier 3 cities when it comes to GCCs. to go back to one of the conversation that you have had, that state, every region and every state, the story is different.
Yeah.
From your perspective, how should a tier 2 or a tier 3 city pitch itself or position itself to global investors when it comes to an investment?
See, I'll take a more broad uh, view here. Firstly, I think Primus is doing a phenomenal work in the GCC space, especially not only thought leadership but also what we have just we are just doing in setting up the GCC for automobile R&D,
Yes.
etc. I think that's the kind of GCC. GCC is no longer can be perceived as a back office of a certain client. The fact that you're doing high-end R&D, you are enabling robotics work, etc., that is the work that you are doing for a headquartered company out of India with the talent that you have around you. That's the lovely story about what is the future of GCC. Uh, when people come to India, when an investor comes to India, they want to go to Tamil Nadu. They want to go to because they have seen that sitting far away, that these are the 5 states, these are Maharashtra, they'll go. So a lot of the work at Invest India is also, why aren't you considering Assam? Why aren't you considering Orissa? Look at what is there. So that education, saying that look at your proximity to ports, look at the proximity, look at the infrastructure, look at the talent, look at the number of schools. So a lot of that would what we would do in terms of marketing a state, saying that, you know what, I know you have decided on a certain state or you have a part, but why don't you look at all of these? And we've seen so many investors change their direction after they've seen that yes, this was information, there was information asymmetry. We didn't even know about this. And that's the work, which is discovery. I think when the government has taken a decision to go to a tier 2, tier 3, there's a lot of marketing that needs to be done in terms of discovery of this, right? We were looking at a survey where many people from tier 1, tier 2 cities, because they are becoming large, unlivable. People want to go back to smaller cities, right? So the talent is moving to tier 2, tier 3 cities because of better quality of life, better infrastructure, everything, better facilities. So being able to show that one, there is existing talent. Second is infrastructure. Like I go to a Bhubaneswar because my parents are there, the infrastructure is outstanding as compared to or tier 1 cities when I'm stuck in traffic, pollution, etc. I don't have a problem in a tier 2 city. So to be able for an investor coming from outside who only knows that India has 4 metros and not anything beyond it, to be able to see this is amazing. So Garima and I were in Hyderabad. We were making a presentation as a part of British High Commission, who I knew from my Invest India days, to 11 schools that are coming to India wanting to set up branches here. And one of the schools has landed in Bhopal, right? And they have a large space. There is, and the reason these schools have landed in Bhopal, international schools, is because there are enough people there who are also have the capacity to pay. So I think people don't see that, and people say, oh, there's no talent, there's no infrastructure, there is no incentive. So I think it's a combination of bringing and surfacing all of this information and encouraging, and I'm sure people will move.
That's so interesting because when you think of marketing tier 2 cities, you would never think amplification as a strategy. Yeah, because the immediate thought is ki XYZ things are not there, but the fact that you have to amplify on the other aspects of it, it's just such an interesting story.
Tell them that if they don't have it, they have the wherewithal to get it up and running in a really short span of time. If they do not have a policy, they can sit down with you and architect a policy. So it's a readiness. So a lot of times the governments also in these states have to show readiness to work with one anchor investor and say we'll create this ecosystem, and then the rest will follow. Because somewhere Andhra Pradesh started for the first time, Maharashtra started for the first time, and we were in Davos, and Chandrababu Naidu was telling us the amazing story during the Times dinner about how he got ISP to come to Hyderabad, and nobody was considering ISP. Rajat Gupta, who's the McKinsey chairman, was coming to set up, and they had only considered the 4, Bombay, Delhi, this thing. And he said his secretary came with the newspaper and said, this university wants to come and set up he said, he wrote to them, he said, you come and have breakfast, nothing else. Right? So they landed in Hyderabad to have breakfast, but he sent his people to the airport. So they got the end to end. They came home, they had breakfast. He made a PowerPoint presentation at that point of time on what Andhra can offer, and he sold it. So it's a matter of making that first start and dreaming first and saying, I'll make it for you. I'll give you the end to end experience. And it all moves.
That's really nice.
I think Andhra Pradesh as a whole has that intent,
Yeah.
that intent to, be the fastest, have a great ease of doing business. You come, you invest, we'll do everything for you. That's very interesting.
It's about understanding your customers, right? I keep telling my son also, when he's doing interviews and all, I said, you always have to understand the audience, right? Here you always have to understand the customer, and that is packaging to the customer. So I think the once we get really good at doing that, then I think everything else will.
Yeah, but I think I think over the past few months, I've spent a lot of time with you. We also, we were together at the AI Impact Summit that was held in Delhi recently. And Primus was actually a big part of the Impact Summit. We held a lot of discussions. We advised a lot of state governments on investment proposals. And so given our effort in, capacity building at state level for AI or technology, considering that you've been at the table, you've been talking to CMs, you've been talking to state secretaries, what do you think is sort of like the, Primus way of navigating these discussions? And what do you think we bring to the table as, as part of these conversations?
I think every government is thinking AI. And at their point of view from a leadership, it is AI curriculum dal do. And skilling kar do, and people will understand, right? Because that's also for them important. At least they're starting to think that way. Now, what Primus has, and I think Charu and the team have built a very good AI university curriculum, which is robust. They've spent a lot of time building that. So where Primus tries to get in is to be able to fill this gap, to be able to educate, take a viewpoint on what end-to-end policy for skilling and capacity building should be, and how your skilling should be customizable. What is done for K-12 is very different from what is done for graduates, is very different from what's for startups, very different from what you are doing for existing people who are already employed. So that kind of customization, that kind of vastness of thinking this end to end, and being able to advise a government saying how you should spend. Computer is expensive. So if you want to teach AI and you want to do a lot of work on compute, you will say that why would I use such an expensive infrastructure for children? There are other ways children can learn. Do they need to be exposed to so much of devices? Can they do it in a more gamification way? So I think that ability to think it through end to end, that ability to be able to go and sit with various entities, even in governments, they are distributed across various entities. There's a department of IT, there is a department of education and skilling, there are startups are with a different entity. So to be able to really give in that big picture and then percolate it down to what the strategy should be, what the policy should be, I think Primus is absolutely poised to be able to do this beautifully.
I think I remember having this conversation with Charu. We did ask her, she was talking about the entire AI curriculum, but she also spoke about how she's found young, entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Like, because you started so young in school and you started like building that pathway, they did not have, they found that course to, build something, build a solution. I think that's kind of like,
and, Yeah, and also I think with AI, the thing is, as AI is such a accessible technology. Like, as soon as GPT launches a new model, a person in the US vis-a-vis a person in, I don't know, Japan, Korea, all of them have the same, like it's
It's a equalizer. Exactly. It's a global equalizer, right? Everybody has access to it. It is about what you use it for and how you use it for. Now, that may be in the schools there elsewhere, because in the US they may be getting a different prompt or a push. That is what we'll have to teach. How do we, while the technology is available, how do you integrate it? How do you enable the ecosystem to adopt it? How do teachers learn and become what do you call equipped or what I call sutradhars to make sure that the children are also learning this, right? So enablers. So I think all of that Primus can think through and do a full end-to-end policy, and that's what we need right now to design something which works end-to-end, cross-department, cross-age, cross-demographics.
Yeah, I think choice was one
Yeah.
thing that kind of, yeah, and we were very proud to even launch that. But yeah, we've spoken about the AI summit. We want to
Jumping from one summit to the other summit.
and go international right now. Yeah, we saw you. We saw you very vocal in the Davos World Economic Forum platform. Um, we've also had, this year specifically, we've diversified the conversations. We've diversified how many states we've taken there.
Yeah.
For you specifically, we know that you've been associated with the platform for a very long time. You've seen this from the the industry perspective, from the investment perspective, to now being policy perspective. What was the experience like this year specifically?
It was amazing, like what Primus can offer as an end-to-end solution in Davos is mind-boggling. Because what happens is traditionally for investment promotion, you will go to an entity. For the entire what I call turnkey, end to end, somebody would go to a third party. For transportation, stay, etc. This thing. For policy advisory, they would go to somewhere. So for a state government to be able to engage 6 7 people with maybe a bureaucrat spending very small portion of the time overseeing this is a nightmare. So we've solved that problem. So Nilesh really understood that and said, again, what does the user want? What are the problems at the user level? And how can I provide something that solves it end to end? And that's what Primus offered. So that's amazing about Primus, that you don't have to worry. You come to Davos, you tell us what your objectives are. Everything else we will drive and manage. And year by year, that process, and I know organizations that have been doing Davos for multiple years, but what I see in Primus, what I saw them from far last year and near this year, is every year is a notch better. And notch better because they've thought, oh, this is what we should do. This is what is missing. You're always learning. Every time you come back from Davos, you've seen 40 companies operate there, and you said, oh, they did this beautifully. So this, how do we integrate it? So that kind of growth mindset that I've seen in Davos and in the Primus offering is amazing.
I think that's also, I mean, since I think both of us have worked on the Davos, and since Nilay does not want to take us to Davos, and since you've been to Davos, I'm sure you were in multiple meetings. So do you think there is like a Primus, Midas touch that we add to a meeting? Do you remember any such experience or a moment wherein you were like, wow?
I remember multiple moments. Like, for example, we did a ton of Bloomberg interviews, and I had the opportunity to sit both in Chandrababu Naidu's dialogue as well as when Nara Lokesh was doing his in a one-on-one interview. And I think the ability for Primus to be able to completely be prepared, but at the same time create an environment with them where personal stories come in. I think that is every politician goes and speaks about their state, etc. But when um, I remember this interview with Nara Lokesh when he was talking about why his son reads a lot and why he wants to create libraries that are accessible to every child. So very thoughtful, very personalized. And I mean, what we did to the Times dinner this time, that was absolutely the Midas touch that Primus.
We saw the photos.
I think every time the state leaders step out and go to another country, Primus brings something back.
Yeah, they're a notch. Every time is better than the previous. So I think, it was amazing.
I think next time we should just tell Nilay to take us now.
Yeah. I've also heard the Davos parties are quite a thing.
This time I didn't get to attend it.
What was the wine that you drank? We saw those. We only saw
A
one.
lot of wines that were available in the place that we were staying, because what happens in Zurich is for a week people leave their houses and they give it out on rent because they probably make more money in the week than they do in the entire year. So what they also do is they leave you with beautiful houses and well-equipped kitchens with food and wine, which is a regular part of their life. So we got a lot of access to some amazing wines out there in the house that I don't know who the hosts were, but it looks like they were Asian Europeans, and we really at the end of the day, no parties except Nilay's birthday, yeah, yeah, and that too it was quite late. We were all tired, but yeah, you always party even when you're tired. It was a lot of fun.
That is, I think, the only thing. Like that is Primus.
I,
Always ready.
You work hard and you have fun, and that's all that you need, and that's what keeps youngsters and people motivated to stay.
I like how our priority for Davos was just which wine did you like?
I think this should encourage more young policy enthusiasts to join Primus.
Should say which wine, which cheese did you eat, what kind of yeah, yeah. No, but it's an experience. Like you both have gone to the US. I think you can do a lot of things behind the scene, but the learning you have from being out there is very different, and that's the exposure Primus gives all of you, and that's what you should. And um, that's where Nilay has democratized. Have you read this book, Tim Marshall's Prisoners of Geography? It is an amazing book because you all think foreign policy is created like that, but your geographical location, your climate has so much to do. So for me, when I read that, I said so much of the power you take away from people and put it to the fact that where are you in the world? Like what water do you have? What seas? What mines you have? What trees you have? That determines your policies. It's so amazing.
But Sunita, I think, just to conclude, this wonderful conversation we've had, I think one of the things that both me and Mayuri were very intrigued about was your journey has been very interesting. You have moved from private sector to the government and now to consulting. And I think both of us, since we are in the policy sector, we both don't have a base in policy. I came from design, Mayuri came from, in sociology and foreign policy. And when you come into policy, there's a lot of unlearning that we had to do from our bachelor's education, from our school education. From your career standpoint, and for young professionals who are entering the policy space, where do you think the opportunity lies for them? Should they join the private sector first? Is it government? Is it consulting? Like, where do you think, what does entry in public policy look like?
There is no set rule. Like when I started 25 years, I did engineering, I did MBA. Did I think I would be here? So, and you can put a set of people together. If anyone had a vision that they were here and where they're going to get, I think most of the people didn't know. They just used opportunities, etc., to get there. Now, working in private, getting to public is better, or working in public, getting to private, again, there's no set rules. It is up to individuals. Every part is a learning, right? And the learning is equally difficult in private and equally complex in public. So you have to be able to be agile, learn wherever you are, and say that this is the opportunity I've been given. I'm going to make the best out of this, right? That's what it is. And many times it is also listening to your instinct, because my thing is, if I look back at 25, I look at the crests and troughs that I've had. Most of my learnings have been at the moments of low, and really figuring out how do you re-architect yourself to again move up. So that thing is non-ending. 40 years, 50 years career, you say I've arrived, you can never arrive. It is all moments of learning, unlearning, learning, unlearning, everything. And your ability to be agile and accepting of things, etc., is what is going to get there. Only one thing is be empathetic, listen to people, figure out, and at the end of it, everything else will follow.
Yeah.
A lot of people, the youngsters in the firm who come, who come to me for, any feedback, any advice, I always tell them this because I started my consulting journey at Primus, right? And the first project I was given was a client facing role, and it was a very difficult project. Like, it was a very difficult client, I would say. But I think that was the best experience I've had, because it was directly working with the client,
Yeah.
sitting in their office, doing from the basic normal things to, even strategizing a document. And I always tell that, if you want to work in a private sector, it's okay, it's interesting, you see that, right? But always never say no to a client facing role, and specifically a government client facing
Yeah.
role.
This
There's
is
so
baptism
much-
by fire. Yeah, that's what we call it, right? Yeah.
Moments that matter.
Yes,
But
moments that matter. Yeah.
was there any unlearning that you did this in this journey? Like, was there anything that felt like, okay, you learned so much, but did you leave behind some?
When you work for tech companies, you come with a lot of privileges, right? Um, for me, I realized those privileges will not exist in any other roles. Even simple things like having a fancy office, having a fancy restroom, having dining spaces, etc., do not exist. But the learning will complement for something else. So you will have to be, and also realize that being long time, some of these don't matter. They become in the long run. So I think your learning matters, how you are recreating yourself matters, and you've all worked with people, whether it's private or public, you will have great people, and you will come out of meetings where you say, gosh, did I have to deal with this one? We all have those moments, right? Exactly, we've been there together. But there is also learning in this, that what could have done. And I have tried with stakeholders that have been difficult. I've tried multiple different strategies and it's not worked. And then sometimes you say, okay, it doesn't work. It's not me. It's the process. Forget it. But there are moments where you have wonderful, wonderful people you meet, wonderful officers, wonderful stakeholders. So you take energy from that and for
Yeah,
Brush aside the bad one.
the negative ones.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that brings us to the end. And since I think me and Mayuri are now the codified Gen Zs of the
I'm
office,
not.
I am the codified Gen Z of the office. Yeah. Don't worry. I will bring
I
you.
got carded, okay? I got carded. Like, every time I ordered for an alcohol in US, they were like, I want to see your passport. And I felt so happy.
That's
That's a northeastern.
yeah, that is.
But we have a quick little rapid fire for you. You do come from Odisha, so what would you say is that one underrated dish from Odisha that people should try?
I think it's a dahi vada aloo, which is a dahi vada with a watery dahi with a hot aludam and ghugni, which is the mutter, and then they top it up with a lot of onions and save and all of that. It is, I mean, it is just the textures when you eat it. It's the cold dahi vada, the tanginess, the masala. It is amazing. You have to eat
Ghee
it.
is basically, you put like mutter and then there's a lot of onions on top and like chilies and all. It's mouth watering.
Damn. Okay, one application on your phone that you can't live without. WhatsApp, Outlook, Teams are out,
And Gmail is out.
and Gmail is out.
So my kids would believe it's Instagram, but it is not. The one app that I cannot live without is Google Keep. Keep all my notes, everything that I want to remember is on Keep. So that is one places I want to visit, restaurants I want to visit, meeting notes. What am I doing? And it is so easily searchable. I think it is. It's like a note keeper, but it's amazing.
Okay, what would you say is that $1 billion idea in the tech space for India? Do you think like
It's diagnostics. The amount of diagnostics center, and if AI can solve the problem of using AI to be able to find whether your lung is in a great state, your TB, all of that, I think that is the space. Your eyesight, everything, that's the space. So I think diagnostics is a space because that is never going to go away. Yes.
Okay. How do you spend your weekends after a hectic day at work?
Do I get free at home to I mean I unpack, yeah, I cook over the weekend sometimes, like I want to do something, so I really like that. I experiment with maybe a salad or something new.
Any new recipe that you've tried recently?
I mean, we do a lot. I do a lot of salads. I do a gochujang chicken very well. So
When are you calling us?
Yes, I was just going to say. We will bring.
I use za'atar and sumac also a lot with in yeah, with chicken and other things. What I really like is about the fusion cooking that India has come, which is they'll pick up a Oriya dish and do a fusion with it. So I think that's we I went with a friend to this restaurant Nisaba. It is in the the area, and they'd use that what you that pumpkin that you eat with the puri, the sweet and sour pumpkin. They made a dip out of it, and it was so good to see something which is quintessentially Indian, North Indian, and used as a dip with the punch foreign taste coming in, and that's what excites me about food. Yeah.
Gotta go there.
It's like your mac and cheese thecha.
Thecha. Yeah.
So those are things, because India is giving you so much of that right now, right? So it's food is reinventing itself.
Last question. An inspiring woman in tech or beyond that you look up to?
There's so many. Can't say one. Um, Kim Scott used to be the head of AdSense at Google, and when I joined, my first job was with her, albeit for a short period, because then she left, and then she's now started doing a lot of podcasts, TED Talk. Amazing woman that I've loved. So many that I've had the opportunity, and not women, men and women both. Like I've learned from both. So that's been amazing. Yeah. Preeti, who's the current India head for Google, is also an amazing woman. I've seen her in the sidelines on how she's grown, very thorough with her job, understands things. She's amazing. Madhvi Puri Butch that I worked, I mean, the audacity to question something, her fierceness to do what is right, and not taking no for an answer. She's just been amazing at how she's operating. Yeah.
I think that brings us to an end. Thank you so much, Sunita. It was wonderful having this conversation with you. I think both of us learned
Every
so
time
much.
Sunita, we enter your room, we come back with something new. And
Yeah.
this is something, I think every conversation.
I think that's what I really enjoy. What I enjoyed being at Google is just the fact that there's so many young people, because you stay so relevant, so many good things. Primus is exactly feels the same. Just the openness of the culture, people talking, everybody having opinions, stories. That's what keeps a workspace vibrant.
Yeah.
I think she knew you more than how much I knew from this conversation. I think
I'm still one-upping you. I had dinner with her last night.
she's calling me to have a chicken.
Gochujang chicken.
Okay.
Come.
Okay. I think it's been a great conversation today.
Thank you so much.
for coming.
A pleasure.